All right, let's see how you guys did on these challenge questions. First, we're once again going to work on all four operations. We are subtracting with fractions, multiplying double-digit numbers, dividing a triple digit by a single digit, and then we're adding with decimals. Let's start by reviewing your subtracting with mixed numbers. We have 15 and a half. We have 14 and a fifth. We're going to subtract. First thing that you have to do is you have to make sure that they have the same denominator. They don't. We have 5 and we have 2. So the first multiple they both have in common is 10. So I'm going to put a 10 next to them. How many 2's make 10? 5. So then 1 times 5 is 5. That's how I figured out how many tenths is equal to 1/2. How many 5's make 10? 2. 1 times 2 is 2. That's how I figure out how many tenths is equal to 1/5. I'm done with 1/5. I'm done with 1/2. If I have 5, I lose 2. That's 3. And then 15 minus 14 is 1. So that answer was 1 3/10. Let's go over to your multiplication. We have a double digit by a double digit. We have 23 and 75. It's no secret, I love the lattice method. Do you guys yet? 3 times 7 is 21. 7 times 2 is 14. 5 times 3 is 15. And 5 times 2 is 10. The 5 falls down. 1 plus 1 is 2. 4 plus 2 is 6 plus 1 is 7. And then the 1 falls down. There's no decimals, so that's your answer, 1,725. 918 divided by 9. The first number you say goes inside the house. The second number say is what you're counting by. How many 9's go in a 9? 1. What's left over? Nothing. Bring down the next place, but here's the issue. You can't take 9 from 1, so therefore you put, couldn't take any groups out. How many 9's go into 18? 2, and there's absolutely nothing left because it went in perfect. 102 is your answer for that one. Now we are going to add decimals. 0.9. And then you have 19 and 3/10. So the 19 has to go over here, and then the 3/10 has to go over here. Why? Because you have to line up the decimal. 9 plus 3 is 12, so we have 12 tenths. 12 tenths is the same thing as 1 2/10. 9 plus 1 is 10. 10 tenths is equal to, 10 ones is equal to 1/10. And then 1 plus 1 is 2. So that answer is 20 and 2/10. Now let's go over to these bad boys. Here you have a postcard. The postcard is 5 1/4 by 3 1/2. How do you find area? You multiply. So we have 5 1/4. And we're multiplying that by 3 1/2. First thing we have to do is make sure that they're both improper fractions, because that's how you multiply fractions. You multiply the numerators, you multiply the denominators. Not anything to do with the whole numbers. So we can get rid of this whole number by turning it into fourths. 5 times 4 is 20. So 5 wholes is equal to 20 fourths. Plus the 1 is 21 fourths. So 5 1/4 is the same thing as 21 fourths. And then 3 times 2 is 6, plus 1 is 7, and that's 7/2. Now, what's cool about multiplying fractions is you don't have to give them the same denominator, because you're allowed to multiply the denominators. This is unique. You don't do this when you add or subtract. You only do it when you multiply. 4 times 2 is 8. And then 7 times 20 is 140. 7 times 1 is 7, so 147. 21 times 7 is 147. Now we have a very improper fraction. How do I know? Because they're eighths. It only takes 8 to make a whole. Let's see how many holes we got. 147. How many 8s can you pull out? Well, 8 goes into 14 one time. There's 6 left over. How many 8s go into 67? Well, 8 times 8 is 64. What's left over? 3. You need 8 to make a whole, so it's 3/8. So 18, a whole group, so it's 18 and 3/8. And then this last one here has to do with something about some horses, right? There's 5 horses on the farm. Each eat 20 pounds of feed per day. How many tons will they eat? Well, the first thing we need to figure out is if there's 5 horses, they each eat 20 pounds a day. We need to figure out how much food's eaten per day total. Oops. That'd be 20 times each horse, which is 5. That's 100. So every day there's 100 pounds of food. That sounds like an expensive bill. So what about a month, 30 days? Well, 100 pounds a day multiplied by 30 days. You guys know the 0 rule, right? You can cross off the zeros because they end in zeros. 3 times 1 is 3, and then you just bring them back. So it's 3,000, but the question is, how many tons is 3,000 pounds? Well, each ton is 2,000 pounds. So we need to figure out how many 2,000s are in here. How many 2,000s are in 3,000? 1. What's left over? 1,000. 2,000s. What is this? Well, it's a very extreme way to say 1.5 tons. 1.5 tons. All right, enough of that. Let me get my camera back here. Those are your challenge questions. As always, when we meet live, let me know if you have any questions about those challenge questions, and I will be so happy to explain them in maybe a different way. Okay, let's look at yesterday's work. Yesterday, I asked you guys to finish 1 through 12. I asked you to finish 1 through 12. So let's see how you did. And if you, for some crazy reason, didn't finish, I hope you have your book open right now and you're writing the stuff down. And more importantly than writing it down is you're trying to make sense of it. So for exercise 8A through 8F, choose yes or no to indicate whether the name applies to the polygon. And all polygon means is 3 or more sides, but it usually talks about things that are 5 or more sides. But technically, if you are a 3-sided figure, technically you are a polygon. So is this a quadrilateral? Well, does it have 4 sides? The answer is yes. So therefore, it is a quadrilateral. Is it a rectangle? Well, sure. It has 4 right angles and 2 groups are equal to each other. Is it a square? Ooh, some people want to say yeah because they're like, every rectangle is a square. But that's not true. In order to be a square, all 4 sides have to be the exact same length. All 4 sides of this figure is not the same length, so it is not a square. Is it a parallelogram? Well, remember, parallelogram means there's 2 groups of lines that are never going to run into each other. Here's a group, and here's a group. Yes, it's a parallelogram. Is it a rhombus? Just like a square, all of them have to be equal to be a rhombus. The only difference is a rhombus doesn't have to have those right 90-degree angles. So it's not a rhombus. And is it a trapezoid? Well, we just said it was a parallelogram. You can't be a parallelogram and a trapezoid because a trapezoid just has one group of parallel lines and the other ones are not. Not a trapezoid. Draw an isosceles triangle with a right angle. Well, an isosceles means that 2 of them are the same length and one of them's not the same length. And then the right angle means it's 90 degrees. There you go. These 2 are the same. I'll put a little slash there to show you, hey, they're the same length. And then I'll put a little tiny square to show you it's 90 degrees. A path is 7/500 meters wide, and Mr. Kiesel extends the width by placing 20 centimeters wide on each side of the path. The new path is how many meters wide? Well, if he puts 20 on both sides, then you're going to add 40. Oh, I see. First thing you have to do is turn the centimeters into meters, right? King Henry died by drinking chocolate milk. You're going to go left 2. So when you turn it left 2, it turns it into 0.2, but that's just one block. And then another 0.2 is 0.4. Add 0.4 to 0.75, you get 1.15. The east side of Mrs. Hammond's ranch is 475 meters longer than the west side. The west side is 2 6/10 kilometers long. The east side's how many kilometers long? Well, the first thing we want to do is convert. Let's turn this into kilometers instead. So if it's meters, King Henry died by drinking chocolate milk, we're going to move the decimal left 3 to turn it into kilometers. So moving the decimal over 3 turns into 4 or 0.475. So if it's longer, then wouldn't it be subtraction? If it's longer, then you'd subtract. And, okay, I lied to you. You don't subtract here because it says the east side is longer than the west side. And if the east side is longer than the west side, then you want to find what 0.475 more than 2.6 is. You are adding, make sure you line up the decimals. On a mile walking tour of New York City, a group had to take a detour, which was 100 yards actually shorter than half the distance of the tour. How long, or I'm sorry, the detour was how many yards long? Well, this one was a little bit more on the difficult side because you had to convert yards and miles. And I never gave you that conversion, so you shouldn't even have worried about 12. I should have told you guys to skip 12. But the answer is 780. All right, so what I'm going to have you guys do for 13, 14, 15, 16, 17, 18, 19, 20, I'm going to have you guys rock those out. Whatever you don't finish, we'll do in the live, or we'll try to do in the live. It says choose a number from the first column and a unit from the second column to make a measurement that is equal to 240 centigrams. Centigrams. Remember, King Henry died by drinking chocolate milk. You're just going to use grams as your base, and then you're going to turn it milligrams, decigrams, decagrams, kilograms. So you're going to figure out which two of these, or I'm sorry, you're going to figure out a number and a unit that is equal to 240 centigrams. What I would do if I were you is I would just go ahead and King Henry died drinking chocolate milk. I would put my 240 here and then see what the rest of these are real quick and then check it with this. Oh, which one of these work? Rectangle chest measures 40 inches long by 22 inches wide by 20 inches high. That sounds like a volume. So you're going to multiply the three of those together to get the volume. The cushion is made to cover the top. So you want to figure out the area on the top for the cushion, right? And then explain how the difference in the units for the volume and the area. Explain any difference in the units of the volume and the area. You can skip part C. We'll just talk about that during the live session. A door sign has a length of 5 inches and an area of 8.5 or 8 1/8. Okay, so we have a length and we have an area, and you are going to try to find the width. Remember, length times width equals area, so 5 times something equals 8 1/8. You're going to then try to figure out what that something is. A souvenir postcard is, oh, this is your challenge question. We already did this one together. Hopefully you remember the answer, or you can rewind the video. Classify the following with these terms. Okay, concave means it's literally caved in somewhere, like looking at B right here. See how it's caved in? There's two areas that you can meet each other, but when you draw a line, half will be in, half will be out. That only happens if it's caved in somewhere. So that's what concave means. Convex means there's a peak. It's the opposite of caved in. It's actually convexing out. And then we have hexagon and pentagon. Hexagon is when it's 6-sided. Pentagon was when it's 5-sided. So you just have to count up the sides. And then if there's 6 sides, you put it here. If there's only 5 sides, you put it here. Okay, this guy's making a ruku, it looks like, right? What is the volume? Well, it's 2 by 4 by 4. You multiply those together, you figure out the volume. And then you're just going to go through and try to see if you can figure out the true false on this one. Oops. And then when we look over here, you're going to actually make this graph. So you go, oh, 2 miles, go to 2 miles, you put 1 dot, right? 1.5 is going to have 5 dots. How many? All right, and then you could answer this question with that, and then answer these 2 questions, and that is what you are going to do. Is some of this challenging? Sure it is. Sure it is, but this isn't a test, right? You're going to try your best to get through this, and then that's what I'm here for. We will meet during the live session, go over any questions, and try to make more sense out of this. All right? All right. Good job. I will see you soon.